Hello, everyone. Good morning and welcome to our webinar today. My name is Michelle Backus. I'm the Deputy Editor here at HR Grapevine, and I have the pleasure of being joined by Charlotte Grandstrom, Customer Success Manager, and Sarah Holmberg, Head of HR at Winning Temp. So what are we going to be talking about today? Well, businesses have seen a costly increase of staff leaving due to stress, illness, or simply being burnt out. There is a secret weapon that businesses can use to help understand and tackle the modern stresses of the workplace. And in this webinar, we'll explore the power of feedback and how it can be used to improve employee well-being and reduce turnover. We'll also learn how feedback influences motivation and performance, and how to use feedback to build stronger employee well-being and company culture. But before we dive in, a little housekeeping from me. You'll have the chance to ask our experts your burning questions at the end of the session, and you should see right now on the right of your screen the Q&A function. We're really keen to speak to you about your organisations, so do reach out. And I think we're going to have a poll during the session as well. So that's it from me. I'd like to pass you over now to Sarah.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you for the introduction. It's so great to be here, and it's wonderful to hear that we're so many attending this webinar today. So today, like you just said, we will talk about how we link feedback to employee well-being, and we will mainly focus on what we can all gain from listening in to the feedback from our people, to learn from them what we need to do to prioritize in order to create healthy and high-performing organizations. So my name is Sarah Holmberg, and I work as head of HR at the HR tech company Winning Temp. I'm working from the headquarters in Gothenburg, Sweden, together with my colleague Charlotta, who is also in the same room with me here today, but we're at two different desks.
Yeah, so I am Charlotta, and I work daily with our customers as a customer success manager. So my role is to support our customers find a successful way of work with feedback and make sure our customers also get the most value of our product.
Yeah, and Charlotta and we also have colleagues in Stockholm, in Oslo, and also in London. And before we get into today's topic on how to use employee feedback to boost employee well-being, we want to share with you a little bit of what it is that we actually do at Winning Temp. So our whole business idea and vision is to forever change how people succeed together. When employees find their job meaningful, and when they receive feedback on how they're doing, and when they have the possibility to contribute and to learn and to grow, they will also perform better, and they will help the company reach the desired results. And Winning Temp is the name of our company, but it's also the name of our product. So Winning Temp stands for Winning Temperature. And Winning Temp is an employee engagement platform. It's a software solution where our customers can collect feedback from their employees on a daily or weekly or regular basis regarding how the people perceive things like leadership, how they perceive their work situation, involvement, stress, teamwork, and so on. And Winning Temp uses artificial intelligence to send out relevant questions linked to each employee's work situation. So if, for example, you have one employee feeling really stressed at work one week, when answering questions regarding the work situation, the system will pick this up and continue to ask follow-up questions related to stress over a period of time to see if this was just a one-time situation where the stress levels were high, or if we actually have a negative trend. And if we have a negative trend, we need to prioritize activities to improve the situation. And if you're curious to learn more about Winning Temp and our products, stay on a couple of minutes at the end where we will show a short film clip of how our system actually works. But we're so happy to have you with us today. And we will go through why well-being at work is so important, and how employee feedback can improve our overall well-being and reduce stress. We'll also talk a bit about how feedback can influence motivation and performance. We will ask for some interaction from you who are participating here today. And we understood when we started preparing for this webinar that you might not all be familiar with Menti, but we want to ask you to pick out your phones and go into menti.com and use the code that's on here on the slide. So enter the code in menti.com. And we will, in a few minutes, ask you some questions where we will use this tool. So let's see where we have it. The code is 35416247. All right, we will also share with you today 4 steps that you can start taking today towards creating well-being at work. All right, well-being at work. What is it that we mean and why is this such a big deal? Well, when I feel engaged and when I feel that I have the energy to perform at work, and I also have the energy when I come home and for other activities as well, and when I'm able to handle uncertainty and adversity and feel overall good about myself and my situation, I'm experiencing well-being at work. That's what we mean. And many of us here today are business leaders or HR professionals, and we have a lead role to play in steering the health and well-being agenda at our different organizations. We need to ensure that people managers understand that this is a priority and that they really integrate well-being practices into the organization's day-to-day operations. But we can't just leave it to being only activities. It actually needs to be embedded in the entire strategy for the company, be integrated throughout the entire organization and fully embedded in the company culture, through our values, embedded also in leadership. I personally have very strong feelings about this is not an HR thing. It's not an HR agenda. This is business critical to focus on our employees' well-being. But why is it then so important to prioritize well-being at work? Isn't it enough that our employees take care of themselves and prioritize their well-being in their after-work activities? Shouldn't that be enough? Well, like you heard in the introduction, employers are facing increased numbers of employee absence and turnover, and mental health issues and burnout continue to be the top causes of sick leave from work. And as employers, we need to take this very, very seriously, and we can't wait to be reactive. We need to seek to understand how our people are doing and feeling in order to be able to put in the right priorities at the right time and do that early on. And here is where we have our first Menti.
Okay, all right. Are we ready to answer questions to have a little bit of interaction here? So now you can log in, use Menti and this code and ask the question, where are the main stressors at work, your workplace today?
And I see that a lot of people are already answering these or giving some feedback to this question. And we see a variety of comments here. Cost of living, deadlines, workload, too many meetings, inflation is causing stress, isolation.
Time.
Yeah. Extra hours, lack of staff, low workload can be stressful as well. I read something about, it's going fast now, winter, what was it? Winter pressures, deadlines, cost of living, workload, time. Yeah, so the main stressors at our workplaces today, it's not just one thing. That's quite obvious when we see this. what's stressing us is coming from a lot of different areas, and there's not one truth for one entire organization. We have to pick this up when we speak with our employees, because one thing can be stressing me and another thing can be stressing Charlotta. And this is quite clear when we see what you're giving us in this feedback today here. So uncertainty, unclear roles, lack of direction, extra hours, too much to do, too little to do. All of this is causing stress, of course. And what we know is that promoting well-being can help prevent stress and create positive work environments where we as individuals and organizations can thrive. We also know that good health and well-being can be the core enablers for increased employee engagement and organizational performance. If we dig a little bit deeper into stress, we know that there are also well-researched factors that contribute to stress in organizations. You mentioned quite a few of those in the word cloud that we just saw. But what we know from research, unsustainable workload, perceived lack of control, insufficient rewards for efforts, lack of a supportive community, lack of fairness, and a mismatch in values and skills. These are all factors that can contribute to stress. And when our people analysts at Winning Temp started to analyze the data that we have on our customers' employees and what they have responded to questions related to these stressors, unsustainable workload stands out. And this graph that you're seeing here is showing data from January 2020 and then throughout the pandemic and up to the period of August 2022. And it's showing from a baseline where you see the 0, how people responded to the question, do you feel you have a reasonable workload? And what we can see that during the peak of the pandemic, it looks like organizations failed to reduce workload. Even though we were in the middle of the challenges of working from home, perhaps doing homeschooling, having lockdowns and so on, adding that stress of not reducing the workload during this time. And this was possibly a major contributor to increasing stress over that time. But then we see from the period of October until August 2022 that it looks like the graph is and the workload is on the mend. And we believe that the partial return to office, where we have this flexibility, we can also come together and meet again, that this actually is playing a positive role. Increased collaboration, that we can see each other on a more frequent basis, have access to team members and leaders, is helping us to be more engaged. So this is some data that we have pulled from our own data in our own statistics from Winning Temp. This is, of course, both a challenge and an opportunity for organizations when developing our workplace strategies. But what we need to do is to continue to listen to our employees. And with the feedback that we get from our people, we can start and have the opportunity to create a healthy organization and make sure that the workload is at a sustainable level going forward. See if we can skip to the next one. Yes. In order to be able to remove or reduce work stressors like we have talked about here now, we need to know what those stressors are. We need to be curious and we need to ask our people for feedback regarding their work situation in order to identify the underlying stressors at work. So by improving well-being with preventive measures that we can identify through feedback that we collect, we can manage employee well-being. And with the feedback, we can also create a better understanding for the reasons and causes of employee turnover. I think this quote here from HSE, by taking action to remove or reduce stressors, you can prevent people from becoming ill and avoid those with an existing condition becoming less able to control their illness, is a good statement to really, you listen in, but you also need to take action. It's not enough to just finding out, but actually what is it that you do with the information that you have.
So Sarah, can you share something that we have put in place at Winning Temp to put increased focus at well-being at work?
Well, at Winning Temp, we have included well-being in our people strategy. And what do I mean with that? We have actually embedded and made sure that a healthy and sustainable work environment is a top priority for us here. It's in our DNA and it's in our product. It's in our vision and it's in our values. And we have also actually even added an employee experience manager here who has full focus on how to improve the work experience for our people, to improve the work situation at Winning Temp, so, which is fantastic, of course.
And I also think we should mention our Health Week.
Yes, the picture you see here is from our Health Week. We had a week just a few weeks back where we dedicated several activities over 1 week's time, where we had a wide range of physical activities and also lectures on healthy foods, on how to sleep better, mental health, stress, ergonomics, yoga, meditation, and so on. And it was so great to see so much activity going on around the company, and also in the offices at other locations where we could share between each other what was going on. So a really good culture boost as well, I would say. So now we've talked about how listening in and acting on feedback from employees can help reduce stressors and create well-being at work. But feedback is also an excellent tool to influence both motivation and performance. Every organization, of course, wants employees to be engaged and motivated to perform and deliver results. But as we just discussed, employees are also experiencing a number of challenges related to both stress and mental illness. And we also still see challenges with high employee turnover in many companies. So then what does feedback have to do with motivation and performance, you might wonder? Well, let's have a quick look at the two most widely recognized motivational theories that are called the self-determination theory and the goal-setting theory of motivation. According to the self-determination theory, our motivation is the highest when it comes from within. You know, the feeling when you do something and it's not because you have to do it, but you do it because you really, really want to. And that's the feeling you want to get. And according to this theory of the self-determination theory of motivation, you feel the most motivated when you have a feeling of competence. You know what it is that you are good at. You know you have the competence to perform and so on, and you have the autonomy. You have a feeling that you can influence how you go about and do the tasks that you've set out to do. And you also have a feeling of connectivity or relatedness to others, that you're not only working for yourself, it's actually that someone else is depending on me and my work. And when competence, autonomy, and relatedness are in place, we will be more likely to actually feel motivated to do what it is that we've set out to do. But this is not enough. We also need to know where we're going. And according to this goal-setting theory of motivation, we also need to think about the goals that we set out. We feel more motivated if our goals are clear and specific, if they are realistic yet challenging, because we won't feel so motivated if they're too easy, We also feel more motivated if our goals are accepted. If I feel that, yes, I own this goal, it's my goal. And is this enough? If we have all of the above, will I continue to work towards my goals with passion and with energy? And will I feel motivated to continue over time? I think you will have the motivation to do this for some time, yes. But what is a combination of the two is that you also need feedback. You need to hear that you're actually progressing. You need to understand from someone, if it's from a peer, from a colleague, or from your manager, that yes, you're on the right path here, or no, you need to adjust here and there. So getting feedback on the progress is super important for me to go on to feel motivated and then later perform. So with feedback, when you have all this in place, you will feel the motivation and you will actually be able to perform at the end.
Okay, so how do we improve well-being at work by collecting feedback from our people? We will give you our 4 steps that you can start taking today. So let's start with step number 1. So what is this all about? Now we know that feedback from our employees give us the opportunity to create a work environment where our employees feel engaged, seen, heard, and feel that they can continue to develop and grow. A healthy organization, in turn, increases performance, motivation, all among us as individuals and leaders. But how do we get there, and how do we get to know our employees are open and able to give feedback? How do we know and make sure that it don't end up with feedback that sounds like, no, everything's fine, there is no problems, it's not a big deal, yeah, I'm probably just a little bit stressed right now, don't want to create any problems. We know that those little things that are not a big deal are the ones that can quickly grow and become real problems. So how to handle this? We as leaders must be curious, open, want to get to know, ask questions, understand, and above all, listen to our people. We are human beings, and it's through dialogue we can understand each other. And this is not easy, but when we are curious and try to understand, we also open up and listen to feedback. It's about trust and creating a climate where employees dare to try their ideas, and that we as leaders are open to feedback from our people. In order for us to receive honest feedback, there must be a high trust and high psychological safety. This will in turn lead to employees who share their experience and are open to give feedback.
So the first step then, be curious, start asking questions and asking for feedback to be able to act together to create the best possible work environment. And now to step 2, work with our culture, make our organizations open to continuous feedback. So building a feedback culture, that's of course easier said than done. I totally realize that. And it requires both dedication and commitment from our leaders and from our employees. And it starts with our leaders. It will actually require both training and practice in both giving and receiving feedback. So make sure that your leaders are up for the challenge to really drive this work to improve the culture within and building the feedback culture. At Winning Temp, we have grown very, very quickly over a short period of time, and it's been challenging for both employees and for leaders. Every time a new colleague comes in, you basically have a new team. And the team goes through many different stages before the team is fully high performing. And it takes time, and you cannot skip a step. You have to go through these different steps. And the first thing in the first stage of a team or a team development is the get to know each other phase. The initial phase, when you get to know each other, is about building a safe environment. Unless the team feels really psychological safe, they will not share their thoughts and they will not share their honest feedback with you as a leader. They will not open up and be honest with you unless you have given them a reason to trust you and feel that you can be trusted. And as a leader, you can, of course, lead by example, and you should lead by example by sharing your own failures, your own mistakes. And what can be super powerful as well is if you share a bit of the feedback that you have received from others and from other leaders about what you can change and what you can improve, so that they see that, you're not actually perfect. And then that actually helps creating this safe environment for everybody to be able to share their failures and doubts and questions as well. In order to build a feedback culture, I think some structure can come in handy. So you need to agree in your organization on how to perform and how to have your one-on-one conversations. If you want to have a structure of performance development conversations and so on, you need to build that around the culture that you want to create. But here I think it's really important that you work closely with the managers and also with the employees to gather the feedback on what's working here, so that you don't just put in place a full-blown performance management system that is not really what the culture is about at your place. So you need to have a little bit of fingertip feeling here, I think. Also connected to building a feedback culture is building a culture of positive praise. Letting your colleagues know what you appreciate about them and letting them know when they've done something really great. So encouraging and lifting each other up. It has a positive effect on the entire organization. And when we start lifting the good things, we will also see those behaviors improve, and you will see more of that in the organization. What we use at Winning Temp, we use our own tool where we have what we call a praise function, where we can actually, in a very, very easy way, share specific things that we appreciate about each other. And every month, we announce the culture carrier of the month. And that is the person who has actually received the most praise from different colleagues around the organization in that month. And we lift that person up and cheer that person on, because this is something really great. It shows that that person has been appreciated around the company. But we also lift up the three employees who have given the most feedback as well, because it's also about sharing. It's not only lifting up the one person who has received the most, it's also lifting up the people who are helping us building this culture.
Okay, so now we come to step number 3, start acting on the feedback. So this is where the real challenge lies. Now we have received feedback and have lots of available information. We have built trust in our people, and now we have responsibility to manage this trust. We do this by acting, setting goals, and developing action plans with the people feedback as a basis. I myself have experience from situations where my feedback did not come further than in the meeting me and my leader had together. And how did that make me feel? I no longer had the desire to continue to give of myself or provide my feedback. It doesn't matter anyway. So not taking action, not creating action plans, and above all, being transparent with that feedback we receive can quickly create a lack of commitment and an unwillingness to continue giving feedback. It is important that we as leaders are open and transparent. This is the feedback that we have received, and this is why we choose to take this step and this transfer. As an employee, this makes me feel that there is value in continue to give or present my feedback. Okay, so now we have started to create a feedback culture. Our employees feel ready to share their feedback with you, and you are interested to see what you can do to improve well-being at work. But how do we make sure this continues? Here we would like to advise on how to put in place some structure. So, focus on changing the way feedback is organized and dealt with. How do you want to gather the feedback in your organization? Is it enough to collect feedback on an annual basis, or would you like to gather it more frequently? Offer all employees opportunity to take part in the process. How do you ensure that all voices are heard? How will you make sure that it's relevant for everyone? Building a feedback culture is not a sprint, it's a constantly listen to your employees. You need to prioritize and create room to share and discuss feedback.
Yes, that's of course super important. So we've been through the 3 steps now. Be curious, build on your culture, and start acting on the feedback. And then we have here the step 4, scale culture for tomorrow. Having better insights allows us to build a strong culture that can lead to strong engagement and improved well-being. And this 4th step is to scale your feedback culture for tomorrow is about taking help from technology. Relying on data instead of just your gut feeling is a must if you want to develop your company. Make sure that you ask the right questions as well, and that they are backed by science. Our questions and categories that we use at Winning Temp are all backed by science and based on scientific studies on what creates healthy organizations. We often say that people are complicated, but listening in and acting on their feedback shouldn't be. And this leads us to the next Menti question.
Yes, so let's go into Menti again. And the question we want to get answer on is, what tools do you work with today to find out how your people experience their work situation?
So let's see if we have some people logging in here regarding this.
Wow.
We'll leave this on for a few minutes, I think, to let everyone answer. So the tools that we choose here was we conduct annual employee surveys. We conduct surveys on a frequent basis, more like pulse surveys, or we have a mix of the 2. Or we only find out through one-on-one conversation and in team meetings on how our employees are experiencing their work situation. So receive a few comments more here, perhaps. This is a bit of a test for us to see if how Menti is working in this format. Okay, there is a mix here in among the audience where we see both annual surveys and a mix of having the more of the frequent type surveys as well. Yes, I think we will skip that. What we see in this picture is an overview of how the employees of Winning Temp are experiencing their work situation right now. At Winning Temp, we ask questions to our employees on a weekly basis regarding their work situation. So both me and Charlotte are also answering these questions every week in the categories that you see here on the slide. In the perfect scenario, what you would see here would actually be, of course, full dark green circles. You would have 10, a temperature of 10 in each category. But as you see here, we are not perfect. We have a lot of things to work with at Winning Temp as well, regarding our work situation and our work environment. But the thing is, what we see here is the current temperature, and it changes. It's not static. It's not the once a year measurement. It's every week, and you can actually, as an employee, go in and answer questions every day if you want to. What we also see in this picture is what we can pull out from our system is you can follow trends. So here, the system is telling me that there are actually quite many positive trends among the questions that we are asking, that we see a positive, and that people are answering more positively to some of the questions than they did before. We also have a highlight here on stress, that there are 2 groups with employees who are experiencing stress. How do I know that? Yes, because they have answered more negatively towards the questions related to stress. So all of this we can pick up. When I looked at this just last night preparing the slide, I looked at the category leadership, where we have worked deliberately during this year on actually focusing more on our leaders, because we think that they are also super important to create healthy work environment for our people. And I looked at the temperature that the leadership category had 1st of June, and then it was actually at 7.4, and it has constantly continued to climb up to today 8.3, which is of course super good. It shows that our employees feel that they can trust their leaders and have that conversation. So answering more positively towards how they experiencing their leadership in their groups and in their teams. What have we done? We have actually focused more on relationship building among the leaders, and also focusing on clarity. How can we be better at communicating the changes that we want to do within the company, and so on. So it has been, it's really good to see that what we're doing is actually also showing here in the temperature.
Okay, so I will sharing a story about my own team. A team that always had a strong team spirit and work ethic. Earlier this year, some new members were introduced to the team, and after a few weeks, my manager saw a significant change in that feedback he was receiving regarding team spirit in tool. In this early stages, there was only a small decrease on 1% compared to that feedback data about team spirit we already had. So my leader thought 1% wasn't that much, but after 2 weeks, it was declined by a further 8%. At this time, he was notified by the feedback tool that there had been a negative trend in team spirit. And then, given this insight, he felt that he had to react. While we have monthly meetings that cover feedback and well-being in the team, my leader felt that the situation was too serious and wanted to act directly. That week, he canceled our usual weekly meeting and gathered the team for dialogue. And during this dialogue, it was discovered that our shared team cohesion no longer really existed. Our team wasn't the same strong, adaptable group as before, and we together concluded to improve the situation where needed to be more time spent outside the office to build relationships. In that meeting, we all agreed to arrange a team activity. There was miniature golf and beer in order to get to know each other better. And this suggested out of office hours activity was a starting point for us to start over as a new team. And this resulted in a markedly improved team spirit. I would say miniature golf and beer isn't necessarily the solutions for all teams in the situation. Sometimes it is that simple, and sometimes it's more complex, of course.
Yeah, great story, Charlotte. And mini golf and beer is definitely a fun thing to do. But have you thought about what could have happened if your team hadn't gathered and started to discuss why the team spirit was declining?
Yes, so if we hadn't started talking about this issue, I think there would be a high risk of creating silos within the group and a risk of talking about each other instead of with each other. We all work in the same group and we need to have a good team cooperation. So if we not had acted, I would say it would be a higher risk of people leaving. But my point here is not to tell you about the negative effects about not acting on decreased team spirit, but about what kind of possibilities you as a company can gain when you work structured with feedback. So through collecting feedback, work proactively and acting directly on feedback, we shine light on problems areas in an early stage before they can develop into what could become serious situations.
Yeah, that you really showed here. What just beer and mini golf could seem simple, but you really took care of it and started to create that high trust in the team as well. Great. It doesn't have to be more complicated than sometimes. All right, thank you so much. And that brings us to sum this up, the conversation that we've had now around how feedback can actually boost well-being in the organization. The 4 steps that we have been talking about is about curiosity, trying to understand, to learn about the people in the organization, what they are experiencing and what the stressors might be. So really finding out and not trusting the gut feeling. Work with the culture to set the culture that you want to have and really integrate feedback into the processes and how you do things at your organization. And then, of course, the most important, if you start collecting feedback about how people are doing, you need to start acting on it as well. So that's the number 1 thing. And the 4th step, use technology. There is good technology out there. Winning Temp is one solution. And use technology to help you scale the culture for tomorrow, to gather the feedback and work with it on scale. If you want to create well-being at work, these are some steps that you can start working with today. I think we also have, I see here on the slide, if you go to winningtemp.com, you find some further resources as well on how to build a feedback culture and so on. But with that, I will leave it to the Q&A section. I will stop sharing this part and see if we have some questions from you, Michelle, or from the audience.
Yes, we have had a couple of interesting questions come in already. So the first question is, would you have any tips for managers who may not feel comfortable asking questions about well-being?
Yeah, and that one is, of course, tricky. If you don't feel comfortable about talking about these things, then I think what you need to do is to find the right forum for it. Perhaps starting to have these discussions in the one-on-one that you have, and perhaps adding the question, if you have question categories that you can use and to help you as a leader. If it doesn't come naturally to you, then you can actually start talking about the well-being. In addition to only talking about setting goals or how you're working towards your goals and so on. So integrate that with the one-on-one conversations that you have could be a good start. Another thing could be if you gather your team and if you usually talk about more result-driven questions, adding 1 or 2 questions regarding the work environment and let the team discuss 2 and 2. So you don't have to feel that you as a leader own the question. You can actually do it together in the group and gather feedback that way. So I think starting the conversation, even though it's a bit uncomfortable, perhaps if you're more comfortable in talking about objectives, results, and so on, I think you need to go there if you want to be a leader that people will respect and trust in, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that answer. Another question we've had come in. Would weekly surveys not feel a little bit like micromanagement? What is the response rate for your weekly surveys?
Oh, that's interesting. We have naturally, I would say, at Winning Temp, quite a high one. We have a participation rate of almost 100%. So it's like 90% something, 96%. But that comes with that it's integrated in what we do. So of course we want people to contribute and so on. But yes, we are getting feedback from customers where employees are feeling a bit of question fatigue, or what we would call it, that it's too much. But it's only what we're asking. It's like 4 questions a week, or you can put it at every other week or once a month if you want to. So it's depending on what you're ready for in your organization. But to really gather enough data, then you also need to have that conversation going. So we really advise to have it frequently to get it so that it's not heavy. It's like 8 seconds to answer the questions, and you can write free text as well if you want to. But if you just answer it really quickly, then it's very short, I would say.
Okay, all right, thank you. Another
but
question.
Do you have another comment from if you?
No, not really. I'm with you.
Okay, we do have another question about technology. If you don't have the technology to work with praise like you do at Winning Temp, do you have any other suggestions on how to encourage each other with positive feedback?
If you don't have that praise function integrate, and that's naturally, you might not have that in your organization, but perhaps you're working with Slack, or you're working with some other tools where you communicate. Then you can use that, or you can actually start practicing to give sincere and honest feedback face to face. So if it's about creating that culture, I think you need to be a bit brave if you haven't tried it before, but actually asking perhaps your team to prepare sincere and honest written feedback about the team colleagues, and then you share it in the room. That's really, really powerful. So of course, technology is a tool, it's helping you, but it's not the only solution. We are human beings, we should be able to also give each other praise and interact face to face, and that can be super powerful as well. Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thank you very much. We've had some fantastic questions and answers, but time is moving on. I'd like to thank Sarah and Charlotta from Winning Temp for your valuable insights this morning. I've taken away a lot of interesting advice, especially about giving praise, about leaders, leading by example and sharing their own received feedback. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I'd like to also thank you, our audience, for taking the time to tune in. I'm sure you found it as interesting as I have, with lots of great starting points for making positive change in your workplace. I'm Michelle Backus. You've been watching HR Grapevine. I'm going to hand you over to Sarah now, who has a few final words to say.
Yes, thank you so much, everyone, for listening in. And now the only thing we want to give you as a final reminder is to show you just a couple of minutes what our tool at Winning Temp can do for you. So thank you for listening in, and it was great seeing everyone. Thanks. Bye-bye.
Welcome to Winning Temp. Winning Temp is an AI-driven platform that helps companies engage their employees at a whole new level. Here's how it works. Our platform uses machine learning to tailor-make surveys for employees. These are sent out weekly, or however often you'd like. The questions are based on research about the real drivers of motivation and performance. The surveys are quick, too. They take employees less than 10 seconds to answer, and they can leave anonymous comments if they like. This data creates what we call temperature. In one quick scroll, you can understand how employees are feeling in real time, across the areas that matter most according to science, plus any other areas you would like to gather data on. Your managers get their own dashboards, where they can see the full picture of what's happening within their own teams and dig into the first-hand feedback. If they're short on time, they can simply go to Insights to see the most important developments to be aware of, like what strength their team is showing, what the current challenges are, and if there are urgent problems that need attention. All this information can be easily pulled up in a report. Managers can then use this data as a starting point for important conversations and easier decision-making. As a leader, you can consult the heat map to check in on progress across your whole organization and know exactly where to step in to offer support. Don't leave anything to hindsight. Get the full picture of employee experience in real time and start taking action on what matters most with Winning Temp.